Welcome Oh, sorry. I was just going to introduce you first. Welcome everybody. Thank you for attending our Indigenous Day ceremony. So I just want to introduce you today to Shirley Kahoko. So she's going to start our day off with a smudge. And we're going to start our day off in a good way. So thank you again. Enjoy the day. Miigwech.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Aboriginal Day today, and I'm just going to light up a smudge here to offer everyone here and out. Timigret, Cockness, Timigret, Nokonis, Timigret to all my relations, Timigret to all the people that are here, and those that are not here. I ask the Creator to watch over them and keep them safe, and Timigret for all that we have received. I'd like to acknowledge all our plants, all our medicines, the waters, the clean waters, the rain that's here today to come help us here with our planting and with our bring back new and in our plants and in the plant medicines in our forests and that, and also for our gardens and for the farmers that who are growing our food for us and that, and I offer that acknowledgement and gratitude for that. I say Timigret for all that we have in our waters, the clean waters we are so fortunate still to have, and that, and for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our parents, our parents, our grandparents, and our great-grandparents. We're lucky to have those with us today. I ask the Creator to walk with them, keep them healthy, and guide them. For the people who are suffering right now with addictions, alcoholism, and other sickness such as diabetes and heart disease that is becoming very big issues within our communities and surrounding areas. So I ask for guidance and for support and helping these people, and also for for the teaching that I am getting right now on the medicines that will help, hopefully that we can teach our children and that the medicines that are here to help us today, that is, and we're so fortunate to have those and be able to gather those. So I say miigwech for that. Also, miigwech for this place, for a gathering, to bring the people together of all nations, and that I think that's been a long time coming, and it's a great and it's something that we need to build that unionness and that togetherness, and to help each other, and especially our youth and who are struggling right now to survive with us. I think that's awesome, and that so. Also, I say I want to give thanks and gratitude for my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I'm very fortunate to be here, to have that, to experience that, and I look forward to watching all these little people grow up and that. So, and that with that, I say miigwech, and have a good day, everyone, and enjoy the rain. We need it. Miigwech.
We at Family and Children's Services of Renfrew County wish to express our ongoing commitment to formally recognize and acknowledge the traditional lands of which we live and work. We find it essential to honor that for time immemorial and long before our arrival, Indigenous peoples led fruitful and full lives on these lands. We acknowledge that the land that we are standing upon is the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. The citizens of the Algonquin Nation did not relinquish title to their land to the government by treaty or otherwise. The Algonquin way of living has resulted in great stewardship of this land and preservation of this beautiful landscape and bounty provided by Mother Earth. As we journey along the path of reconciliation, we commit to educating ourselves as individuals, professionals, and as a community. We look forward to a new, reconciled, respectful relationship with all Indigenous peoples.
Au service à la famille et à l'enfance du comté de Renfrew, nous souhaitons exprimer notre engagement continu à reconnaître officiellement les terres ancestrales sur lesquelles nous vivons et travaillons. Nous trouvons essentiel d'honorer le fait que depuis des temps immémoriaux et bien avant notre arrivée, les peuples autochtones mènent une existence fructueuse et comblée sur ces terres. Nous reconnaissons que la terre sur laquelle nous vivons est le territoire ancestral du peuple algonquin. Les citoyens de la nation algonquine n'ont pas cédé le titre de propriété de leur terre au gouvernement par traité ou autre. Le mode de vie du peuple algonquin a permis d'assurer une bonne gestion des terres et de préserver la beauté du paysage et l'abondance fournie par la terre-mère. Sur la voie de la réconciliation, nous nous engageons à nous instruire en tant qu'individus, en tant que professionnels et en tant que communauté. Nous nous réjouissons de nouvelles relations conciliées et respectueuses avec tous les peuples autochtones. So today, our day, I'm just going to go over the agenda quickly. Our day is very free, and it'll happen as it happens. We might have some people that are running a little bit late, so we're just going to kind of go. Before we start the teaching or the activity, we will tell you which one it is so that at least you guys can grab your supplies and join us if there is some. So at 10:30, we were supposed to have a medicine teaching. That'll be our next thing. Our knowledge keeper is running a little bit late, so if she's not here, we will just jump ahead to the shawl dancing with Callie and Victoria, which will both be offered in French and in English. Following that, we will do some beading. We have a video of bannock making, which is also offered in French and English. Our fire keeper and knowledge keeper, Lori, will share some knowledge with you guys. We also have a follow-along painting with one of our youth. And then tobacco ties, which will be offered in French and English. And then we close the day with another closing prayer and our closing song. So it'll just happen as it happens, but we'll let you know what is there before we start. Hi everybody, welcome back. Now we're just going to offer a medicine teaching with our knowledge keeper Carol McGrath and her niece Melissa Lebrecq. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to say we have a little bit of a script here this morning for a particular reason, because I have spent the last 6 days experiencing my first gout. And so one of these pages is missing, Missy, so we'll have to work between the two of us. Okay. Yeah? Okay. And so the first thing I wanted to say is that I am not Indigenous, and my great niece, Melissa, her mother was adopted by my younger sister, and she is of the Haudenosaunee from Oneida of the Thames. And so part of the reason that I am involved here is seeking justice, and I'm very honored to have been invited for I, as a non-Indigenous person, to share what I have learned from my Indigenous teachers. And I'm just going to take my mask off so you can hear me more clearly. Melissa, you can take yours off, because we are in the same household. We hug every day. We social distance with other people outside our household. So one of my concerns when I was invited to do this teaching was to be a non-Indigenous person teaching Indigenous wisdom that I learned. And so for many Indigenous groups, their cultural practices were forbidden certainly in the United States until 1978, when President Jimmy Carter in the U.S. passed what was called the American Indians Religious Freedom Act. And so this is an extremely important act that has not been fully implemented in many senses. So I'm going to skip a lot of this stuff. But what I would say about what I'm about to teach is that I had one wonderful spiritual teacher many years ago, and he said to me, he said, "Don't believe a word I say, check it out for yourself." So everything that someone tells you, try and go back to the source or to multiple sources in some cases as to what you find, where you get your information. So my background is that I have now studied medicinal uses of herbs for 44 years, and I have been a foster parent for 20 years, and Melissa is 20 years old now. So I've had her since she was in my household since she was 3.5 months old. Some of my earliest memories of the Indigenous elders that I learned from was that my brother raised his kids up in the Arctic Circle in a place that was then called Spence Bay, but now has an Indigenous name of Taliuk in Nunavut. And what I remember was going out on the land with two Inuit kids and going out fishing. And the tradition there was that the very first fish that you caught as a young person, and I wasn't that young when I went there, but it was the first fish I caught, you bring it to the elder in the community. And so I brought that fish to the elder, who was called Old Mary, and she had been born out on the land and had traditional facial tattoos that were used then to identify people. But then, then when I moved to Vancouver Island, I met the main Indigenous mentor that I had, a woman that I have deeply respected from the moment that I met her, and her name was Ellen White, or Kulusulwut, Many Stars was her other name. And I have, if you can zero in on here, this is a picture of her. I don't know if you can see that clearly. There. And this is a picture of me with Ellen in both of our younger years. Ellen was a midwife, a storyteller, and a medicine woman, and she started being trained as a medicine woman at the age of 7. And I learned from her, because I had one of my sisters was a midwife, I learned from her that in their tradition, the midwife speaks to the child inside the mother before it is born, and they learn things about that child and what that child's role is going to be. So the people, Ellen's family knew before she was even born, they knew that she was going to be a medicine woman and a storyteller. And so when she started her training as a medicine person at the age of 7, started her training as a midwife at the age of 9, and went to her first birthing at the age of 11. And this is like so different from what we have in our culture. She was given later an award by the government, and here she is with her medal around her neck as a person of consequence, as it were. And this is a picture of Ellen and I when I was presenting her with sweetgrass as a part of a huge gratitude thank you to her for what I learned from her, which I'm about to talk to you about. And this, Ellen died a couple of years ago at the age of 96. Then the age is approximate because they didn't have birth certificates when she was born out on the land. So, let's see, here we go. So, let's see. One of the two things that Ellen said to me that struck me so deeply, one was, we never go faster than the slowest canoe. And that struck me so deeply because my eldest sister was a scholar and my eldest brother was retarded, what was then called retarded. And so the idea that he would not be left behind meant so much to me. And the other thing she said was, nobody gets left behind. And to me, that says more about the Indigenous culture as I have learned it and as I have experienced it, that nobody gets left behind. So, what I'm going to talk about is the 4 sacred medicine herbs that are used as a smudge. And one of the things that Ellen also taught me that I feel is relevant to this is she said that it's not just what you learn on a day-to-day basis, but it's also what you learn from the spirit world, including the world of dreams. And so one of the things that she taught me about was something called a dream anchor, and that when you go to sleep at night, you use a dream anchor as something that can, if you have something frightening or shocking in a dream and you want to wake up, the dream anchor will bring you back into this world as we know it. And I had a wonderful experience of that, which was that I was having difficulty with my eyes. I had surgery on my eyes as a small child. I was cross-eyed as a small child, and you know, I've always had a tendency towards that particular problem. So I was looking for something that would help my eyes, and I had a dream about a plant that I had not seen since I was a small child. And that plant was something that was called butter and eggs. And here's a picture of it here, which when I looked it up after I dreamt about it, I found out is called yellow toad flax. Now, I had not heard anything about this plant since I was a small child, when it grew in our garden in Newfoundland, where I grew up. And I had this dream, and trusting what Ellen said about the information that you get from the dreams, I looked around and I found one plant right in my neighborhood when I went for a walk the next day. I was so shocked and pleased. And so here is the dream anchor that Ellen had, that she used was a carving of a wooden carving of a Madonna and Child that her children gave her. And she would call it My Lady. And she would say, if she was in a dream and something was happening and she wanted to wake up, she'd say, My Lady is calling me. I hear My Lady calling me. And that would bring her back into this world. And often bringing medicine information with her, and that's how it was for me. So here's mine. This was a piece of driftwood that I found on an American island when I was visiting a master herbalist that I knew there. And I found this on the beach, and when I brought it home, I painted a little face on it and chose it to be my dream anchor, and it has been next to me, next to my bed ever since. And we're going back probably, 35 years probably. So a long time. So I was taught by Ellen and by other teachers that when you're going to go out and pick a plant, you start talking to that plant. The plant is knowledgeable. The plant, she said, it's not just that you need to know about the plant, but the plant needs to know about you. So if you're going to go and pick sweetgrass and go looking for sweetgrass or looking for cedar, you start talking to that plant the night before you go out. And then when you do go out, you go to the area where you've heard that it was or where you've seen it growing, and you say a prayer of gratitude to the plant, and you put down one of the sacred herbs, usually tobacco in that case. You put some tobacco down, and you ask the plant to show itself to you, to give its knowledge to you. And I've had literally extraordinary experiences in that case. Like in one case, I went looking for a particular plant, and I used to have apprentices. I had 12 students with me, and we were out in the forest, and we were looking for a particular plant. We were finding little bits and pieces, and then, said, well, we can't find any more. And I just closed my eyes like this, as Ellen taught me, to feel for the plant, to listen for the plant speaking to you. And I said, no, there's more here. I can feel it. I can feel it. And I closed my eyes and I walked. We were in the old growth forest. We walked. And then I stopped, and the students started laughing. And when I opened my eyes, I was this far away from a massive tree. And I said, wait a minute, you're laughing, but I can still feel that plant. It's here. We walked around the tree, and there was a whole bunch of that particular plant that we were looking for. And the students stopped laughing. So the other thing I was taught was that you don't pick the first one of the particular plant that you find. That's like you consider that like the grandmother or the grandfather plant, and you thank it, and you put down like some tobacco or something like that, something to acknowledge. You have to give something. And people say, well, what if you don't have any tobacco, or something? Like, what if you're just out walking? Well, you can give a prayer, a blessing, gratitude. Now, Melissa and I have, Melissa, you know, having lived with me for 20 years, we've done smudging, and sometimes we often have our smudge in the back porch, so, you know, coming or going, if people want to smudge, they can do that. And so, Melissa, do you want to talk first about what we use here?
Sure. So when we smudge, we use an abalone shell to carry the smudge in. But you can really use anything, any kind of container, preferably something that won't burn. And be mindful that even an abalone shell can get quite hot. So you're going to want to have it lifted up on something.
So in this case, what we have here is we have this is the mortar I have for a mortar and pestle that I use for grinding herbs. And so in this case, we've put it on there so that it doesn't overheat. Then, Lissy, do you want to talk about?
So sometimes we can use charcoal to help light or keep lit the smudge that we're using. But be mindful that when you light charcoal, it takes a while to go out. So you're gonna have to let it burn out. So usually you can take like a little bit of a chunk, you don't need much, and you just light it, and then you can put the smudge on top of the lit charcoal.
Okay.
Do you want to light charcoal, or do you want to just light the smudge?
Are we allowed to light it in here? Because we're not sure. Are we allowed to light smudge? I don't think so. Yeah? Yeah, we're okay to do that? Okay.
Okay, so some people like to use lighters, other people like to go more traditional and use a box of matches. It's really your preference of how you would like to light your smudge.
We'll say here that some people are very specific. They say you must use wooden matches, but fewer and fewer people are selling wooden matches, and so it's not always that easy to find what you're looking for. And it's the same thing with the smudge, the four sacred herbs. They're not always available in the same area. Most people don't have, say, tobacco growing in their backyard. You know, not everybody, although sweetgrass will grow all across the country, all across North America and in Europe as well, but you know, many people don't recognize it, and so they don't know that it's there. Sagebrush tends to grow in drier communities and in the desert and so on, and so, you know, where I used to live near the rainforest, or where we live now here in Ontario, you know, there's old growth forest there, but not really super dry circumstances where that would grow. So, okay, do you want to light it?
Sure. So before we go forward, there are 4 sacred herbs. So we have some sweetgrass here. We have a bundle of cedar. Then we have white sage as well. And then we also have some tobacco, a tobacco bundle as well. But if you don't have traditional tobacco, you can use the tobacco from cigarettes if you don't have anything else.
And that's sort of a last option, because we try to have our herbs as clean as possible. And of course, you know, the regular cigarettes you buy in the store are not necessarily going to be clean. They've got all kinds of stuff in them. I mean, pesticides is only part of it, but okay. So, you want to?
Okay, so do you want me to use a match, or?
Yeah, sure.
Use a match? Sure.
Now you'll see in some of these bundles here, Melissa wrapped this particular bundle with a thread that's the color of the 4 directions. That's just a choice. Not everybody does that.
Now, when smudging as well, people usually like to use an eagle feather, but you can really use any feather that works for you. We have, I think this is, what kind of feather is this?
I have no idea.
No idea what kind of feather this is, but this is a little seagull feather that we were given, and it has a cute little, it's wrapped with the 4 directions. Yeah. Do you want to demonstrate how to smudge? Or?
Why don't you demonstrate how you do it for me?
Okay. Okay. So do you want to hold it for me, or do you want to do it first?
Why don't you smudge me?
Okay.
Okay, so the way that I was taught was that you take the smoke to your heart, because your intention is one of the most important things. What is your intention in the smudging? And we'll talk a bit more about that afterwards. So take it to your heart so that you feel everything you want to feel. You take it to your ears so you will hear truth. You'll hear appropriately what people are saying to you. You take it to your eyes, and some people who wear glasses take the glasses off. I don't usually, but you know, some people will smudge their glasses, and you know, tools of the trade, whatever. And so that you will see clearly what's in front of you. And let's see, heart, mouth, so that you speak truth, ears, so that you hear properly, eyes, so you see properly, and then your whole self, and front and back. And we see many people will also lift each foot and have each foot smudged, so the bottom of your feet, so that you're walking a good path. Okay, I'll do you.
You want to do me? Okay.
Yeah, sure. And one of the other things that I was taught was that they say you don't blow on the smudge. You use the feather or something like that. Oh, I think we need to light it again.
Yeah. See, that's when the charcoal comes handy.
Yeah, if you're in a circle where there are a lot of people, like we don't normally use a charcoal because it'll burn for a long time. But if you have a large circle of people and you're smudging everybody, sometimes having a piece of charcoal, which is just burnt wood, you know, that will glow, that it'll keep it lit better. Okay. Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yeah, and then you can push it, like tip it to, and sometimes you can just push it like that too. If it's a smudged bundle like this, you can just put it out like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes you can put it out just by scraping it on the edge. Other people just like to let it burn out by itself. Like for cedar, this comes apart quite easily, so I wouldn't rub it on the side as it might come apart easier.
Yeah. And what some people do is they have like a little dish of sand, and if you just put it down in the sand, then that'll take the oxygen away and have it stop that way. Okay, let's see, what else have we got here? The 4 directions, we'll just mention something about the 4 directions, and that is that part of the reason, some people will say, oh, this is the only way to do it. And I have traveled from Newfoundland to British Columbia up to the Arctic Circle, and I have taken part in ceremony in the jungle in Belize in Central America, and I can tell you that different people do a similar blessing ceremony or cleansing ceremony different ways. And not only that, but even something like the 4 directions, the black, the white, the yellow, and the red directions, although some people put those colors in specific directions, other people will put them in different directions. So in some places black is in the west, in other places black is in the north, and so it all depends. And what I like is this is a badge that I found on the street when I lived in Victoria, British Columbia, and I don't think you can see it up close, but what it says is it shows several people in canoes, which reminds me of the we'd never go faster than the slowest canoe. And the words on it say, "Let only good spirits guide you." And so if you go with that, if you go with the authenticity of your intention, then I think, and respectful of the traditions of whoever it is that is around you as well, then, then it's going to be okay. Let's see, what else have we got here? We have here some pictures. I brought here, as a giveaway for whoever might like them, tobacco plants. And so I've got, 2, 4, 6, 7. I've got 7 tobacco plants here. And I remember calling one of my sisters who lived in New York City, and her sweetheart had grown up on a tobacco farm in North Carolina. And I said, how do you cure the tobacco? And she said, well, I'll give you Joe's phone number and call him and ask him, because he grew up on a tobacco farm. And I called him, and he said, I have no idea how to cure a small amount of tobacco. All I know how to do is barnfuls. And so I looked on the internet, and on the internet you will find how to cure small amounts of tobacco. But there's some tobacco there for anyone who's interested in it. And here is the difference between a fresh tobacco plant and cured tobacco. And so you can see there's quite a big difference. And I want to mention just a little bit about that history of tobacco. That it came originally, it's a nightshade plant, and as I said, I've been an herbalist for 44 years. It's a nightshade plant, and the nightshades came from Central and South America. And so that's where the tobacco originated, and it was brought to Europe and further north by the Spanish explorers and so on. And and they are the people who made it an item of commerce, because before that, people were sharing it with each other, and this whole issue about people getting lung cancer and so on, and I know I've had students who came to me who said they were addicted to tobacco, addicted to cigarettes, and I said, well, my own experience has been that, and anybody here, as I say, I have no hesitation about correcting me if I'm wrong on anything. I'm always willing to be corrected. But that Indigenous people in the old days didn't chain smoke. They smoked that tobacco in a sacred manner, and they offered it to the 4 directions. And when you do that, and I have sat next to somebody who's smoking a cigarette, and I suggested that they try this. You offer it to the different directions, and the different directions have different meanings. And the different directions have different meanings depending on where you are in the country. That's one of the things I found out, because what I was taught, and not everybody was taught this same thing, I was taught that there's a mouse in the east, an eagle in the west, an elder in the north, and a child in the south. And you enter by this child, and the idea here is that the child energy is fresh energy, And I say, if you have a problem, you sit in the middle with your problem. And you'd say, oh gosh, I don't have enough money for the rent. And if you ask the child might say, well, just go to the bank and get some. Not understanding how banks work. And then if you go to the mouse is about detail. And so the mouse might say, well, your friend owes you $80, so maybe you could go and get $80 from your friend, and and you've got these things. You could have a garage sale and make some money, and oh yeah, and your uncle always said if you ever needed anything, you could always ask him, and you could do that. And so in other words, the mouse looks at the details of where's the problem, how can you solve this problem, where can you get this money for the rent, where are possible ideas. You go to the eagle. The eagle will say, you've always paid your rent. The world is a world of abundance, because the eagle is up here looking down and seeing the whole picture. The eagle can see everything from your childhood all the way up, and it's looking and going, you're a competent person, you can do this. And the elder is looking back on all those years. I'm 73 now. Looking back on all those years and saying, you've never been kicked out because you've always ended up paying your rent. because you've always figured out a way. So each, and that's just one sort of one way of looking at the 4 directions. Somebody else may have totally different things. They may have a bear in there, or a turtle, or they'll have other things depending on again where you are living and what the tradition is that you have been exposed to. So anyways, I was going to say that this friend of mine who would offer, I said, if you offer that cigarette, every time you smoke a cigarette, you offer it to the 4 directions, you can't chain smoke. Because when you put that much intention behind every puff of that cigarette, you don't just turn around and, I just did this ceremony. I'm going to do this ceremony again. I'm going to do this ceremony again. And so the person, like, I had a sister who died of lung cancer, and she smoked from the time she was 14 until she was in her 70s. And it was just one after another. I always think of her hanging, and my favorite picture of her, she's sitting smiling with a cigarette in her hand, And so that was what you have to do, is find some other way of self-soothing other than just cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. You must treat these herbs in a sacred manner. Let's see. And I wanted to mention that Jean Calment of Arles, France, was a woman that they consider to be the woman who lived the oldest of anybody. She lived to be 122 years and 8 months old. And she smoked until she was 117 years old. But what I read was that, and I mean, it's hard to know exactly how accurate these things are, but it said that basically her husband taught her to smoke, and she would have a cigarette after she had, after she had her lunch and after she had her supper. So she was only smoking a couple of cigarettes a day. And so 2 cigarettes a day, that's almost like more like a ceremonial type of way of using tobacco. And it didn't affect her health at all. Tobacco is often used as an offering when you go to ask an elder for teaching, and it'll often be wrapped like this in red, and a symbol of life apart from anything else. And I remember when I went to a place called Bainbridge Island, Washington, with Ellen White, and we were walking through the woods with another herbalist that we knew who lived down there. And our friend was walking ahead, and Ellen and I were walking together, and all of a sudden Ellen raised her head like this and she said, "There's a small house here." And she plunged into the bushes. There was no path. She plunged into the bushes. I heard nothing, I smelled nothing. And when we got there, there was an open space and the sweat lodge. And these red tobacco offerings were hanging in the tree outside the sweat lodge. How she knew it was there, I do not know. Well, I kind of do know now, because you let your intuitive sense tell you. When you start paying a lot of attention, and you're not throwing your system off with different things like a lot of coffee or alcohol or sugar or things like that, then you pay more attention to what am I feeling inside. And you can actually, I almost hate to say it because I know I'm going to sound wacky, but you hear the plants talking to you. And that hearing is what Ellen, and remember, this woman started being taught when she was 7 years old and lived to be 96. She called it unsounded speech. She said you will hear the plants, the animals, not just plants and animals, but things like the wind or the water speaking to you in unsounded speech. And that's, to me, that's that intuition that you feel. Where are we time-wise? We're okay? All right. Let's see. So then sweetgrass, I want to talk about sweetgrass. So sweetgrass, I mentioned that it grows all across the country. How does it spread? It has tiny little seeds, but those seeds don't actually sprout easily. It's tricky for them to sprout well, but it spreads also by underground roots called rhizomes, and that that'll do very well. It smells like vanilla, and it's this. Actually, when we were coming up here from where we live, we were talking about it. Melissa was saying, it's the vanilla. The smells like vanilla. And what that vanilla smell is a chemical in the sweetgrass called coumarin. It's also in new mown hay, and it is a blood thinner. And so, it's actually coumarin is used as a rat poison, because the rats will eat it and then they'll hemorrhage. But the small amount that's here gives it a beautiful smell, and of course we're not eating it in the same way that the rat would be. Now, some traditions will say that you pull the plant, and you'll recognize the plant. I've got a picture. Well, this is just the tops of the sweetgrass here, but the stem of the sweetgrass has a purple in it. And in some traditions, what they do is they pull it, and when you pull it, you're thinning out the plants a bit, and it loosens up the soil and allows the roots or the rhizomes to spread. And in other cases, they cut it. So if you cut it, it'll grow back again. But if you neglect it, then sometimes it will die out. And as I say, it grows all across the country, but if you don't have anywhere you grow, there is the possibility of buying seeds and growing some or buying plants. Rather than buying the seeds, you buy small plants. And where I get mine is here in Ontario. Have I got the catalog there? No? I've got a Richter's catalog? No? You can get it from Richter's Herbs in Goodwood, Ontario, if you want to grow your own. And they're a terrific company. And what I did when I lived in British Columbia, and I didn't have any sweetgrass, I lived on a nature sanctuary for 30 years. And what I did was I sent to Ontario and got them to send plants, and they came in perfect condition in the post office and delivered to me. And when I moved from British Columbia to Ontario, I brought some sweetgrass. I dug up some of the sweetgrass in the garden, and I brought it with me and gifted it to my niece, which is where we were staying when we first moved here, and she planted it in her garden. And it grew very well there. Now I've just ordered some more sweetgrass starts from Richter's, because I don't know where around where we live in Arnprior, I don't know where to find the sweetgrass. So I've planted it there before. Melissa helped me. We've harvested it before, and what we did was we took it like this and we braided it. As you see, it grows quite tall. Right, and sometimes it'll be like that. I think we've got a smaller one there. But and a friend of mine who was married to Ellen White's nephew, a Coast Salish man, she taught me a song, a braiding song. So shall we do the braiding song, Melissa? So this is the song that we would sing as we braided it. And Melissa, tell about how we used to. You said you remembered us braiding the sweetgrass.
Yeah, so after my aunt would pick the sweetgrass, she would actually attach it to the back of a chair, so then it would be pulled tight, and then she would be able to braid it.
Yeah, and so this is the braiding song. Ready? I weave mind, body, and spirit. I weave mind, body, and spirit. I have the power. I do not fear it. I do not fear it. Should we do it for the 4 directions? I weave mind, body, and spirit. You can join us. I weave mind, body, and spirit. I have the power. I do not fear it. I do not fear it. I weave mind, body, and spirit. I weave mind, body, and spirit. I have the power. I do not fear it. I do not fear it. I weave mind, body, and spirit. I weave mind, body, and spirit. I have the power. I do not fear it. I do not fear it. So let's see. All right. Tobacco, sweetgrass. What do we get here next? Oh yes, sweetgrass has been woven into baskets And I think of one extraordinary circumstance where I got a phone call at the herb store where I was working in British Columbia from a woman who had been pregnant with twins, and she was out on her husband's fishing boat and went into labor early. So he quickly brought the boat in, but it was a huge boat and it was, slow and ponderous. So he called a friend of his to come out in a speedboat and pick up his wife. And she ended up giving birth to those babies on the dock with this man who was a friend of her husband's who had never seen a birth. And they called in a helicopter from the hospital and picked up her and the babies and brought them to the hospital. And they were put in an incubator. And one baby got off the incubator after a few days, and the other baby just lingered and lingered and lingered and lingered. And so she phoned me to say, is there anything that can help? And I said, well, yes, perhaps garlic oil rubbed on the feet can help a baby breathe better. And the baby was on inhaling oxygen. And the other thing was hawthorn tincture put in the baby's tube. And right away, it helped somewhat, but not enough. And I called another friend of mine, the one on Bainbridge Island that Ellen and I had gone to visit. And she had been a nurse, and she said, Carol, I've never seen a baby that was on a respirator that long ever get off it. You need to call a medicine person in. And so I told the mother that, and the mother got a medicine person. They went to the hospital with the whole family, all her other kids and everything, and they went. And they put the baby in a sweetgrass basket and took it out into the woods behind the hospital, put her on a hand respirator, took her out into the woods with the medicine man and the family and the doctors and the nurses, and took the baby off the respirator. And the baby died. And at the moment the baby died, there was a crash of thunder and a flash of lightning in a perfectly clear sky. And the medicine man just looked up and he said, that's good, that's good. So sweetgrass is not just used in the sense of a smudge, but also in a context like that where the baby's grandmother had made that basket that they carried the baby in. Sage, there are many types of sage, and my first experience with sage smudge was actually in Oakland, California, with some friends, some indigenous friends down there. It was quite a mixture of people. It was one of the first contexts that I was ever in where there was no other sort of pure colonial white people except me. Everybody was a mix of this or that, and there was black people there, and there was indigenous, and there was one Amazon-looking woman with long blonde hair who was indigenous. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from those people. My friend was actually Haitian, so she was part indigenous, part black, and part French. And and when she would smudge every night before she went to bed in order to have the intention of that blessing and that gratitude and that prayer to the Great Spirit to, ask for help for her and for the members of the household and the members of the community. And she used ordinary garden sage. And I was kind of surprised because I read about this and I said, well, can you use that kind of thing? And she just looked up and she said, it works. It's the same smell, it's smoke. It's not simply the item itself, but it's your intention. It's like I said to Melissa, I said, really, the difference between a spell and a prayer and a poem is sometimes not that different. It's all about trying to get something to happen, trying to make things better for the family, make things better for you, get past a trauma, unite the community, all of these things together. And so it's actually the smoke that is the important part. Now, do you remember, Lissy, the shell, the abalone shell is for the water, and then the plant is Mother Earth, the earth, and then the lighting of it is the fire, and then the smoke is the air that going up. Anything else? Let's see. Oh yeah. So the sage that mostly is used is not garden sage, but it might be like what's called white sage, buffalo sage. There are many, many names. I know one plant that I found 27 different names for the same plant. And this is very common because the plants spread all over the world, right? So, a sage like that, white sage, is one of the common ones. The other thing about the different plants that are used, including the sweetgrass, is that many of them are antiseptic. And so when they're burned in a room, they actually leave a vapor of sort of a disinfectant on the room. It's not just sort of all in your mind or something like that, but it actually does disinfectant, and it kills bacteria. After you pick it, now how do we dry it in the house, Lizzie? Do you remember?
You hang it up somewhere.
Hang it up somewhere, or I've also got a dehydrator, which has big trays like this, and if anybody's interested, contact me, because I have the person who made my dehydrator. It came from a little book called Dry It, You'll Like It, and in the back of the book there's instructions on how to make one of those dehydrators. I didn't make the one that I have. I bought it from somebody who used that pattern to make it. And the last one to talk about is the cedar again. Is that cedar, like other smudges, is often used to, like all of them, to clear away negative energy, and it's often used on the floor of a sweat house, a sweat lodge, when doing a cleansing or a fasting ritual. And I've participated in a number of different sweats in different places, and and sometimes that's what they have. They'll put cedar branches down for people to sit on, and it's also often used to cleanse a house if you're moving into a new house, or if you're moving into, a new place for you to be living, a new space for you to be living. It could be a room at university, or it could be, like my ex just moved into a little kind of a very rustic cabin with no plumbing or electricity or anything, and you could use it for something like that, like just clear it out of whatever other energy's been there, and ask any residual unwanted energy to please leave, and then some people like something very pungent, like the cedar or the sagebrush, to sort of move that energy on, and so that the space is starting kind of fresh, and protecting the new inhabitants and so on from any kind of unwanted influences. And how are we? That feels fairly complete. Do you have anything else, Lizzie? Melissa has done smudging for a long time. I've got a picture here of her with Ellen White. Where's your picture? There. You see? Yeah, there's Ellen. Yeah. Here. This is when Melissa was a little girl. This is her here with the red shirt and the glasses, with her sister and me. And this is Ellen over here, and this is Ellen's daughter. And so, we've been, I've used these teachings from this wonderful, wonderful Ellen White, this teacher, for a very long time, for Melissa's whole life. She has, she's been part of all of this. Anything else? Nope.
I think we are good.
Okay. So thank you very much, and miigwech, and if anybody would like anybody who's here today, kind of first come, first serve, I guess. There's 7 tobacco plants here if anybody wants to try growing some tobacco in their garden. And I've also got some sagebrush and different plants here. If anybody would like a little bit, I've got a couple of bags if anybody needs any. Okay, so thank you very much.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're on to some beading today. So you'll see in those that have an actual bundle that we do have a little design and some beads there for you to follow along, or you can do it later, either or. I do believe these sessions are being taped, so you can also view it again later on as well. So I would like to introduce you again to Chantel Chadwick, and she can talk a little bit about herself. But she's going to be doing Métis flower today in honor of the Métis peoples. So we're so honored to have her here today in miigwech. So, miigwech.
Bonjour, Pembroke. My spirit name is Butterfly Woman from the Bear Clan, and my home is Pikwakanagan and Pembroke. My given name is Chantel Chadwick, and I started my beading journey 3 years ago when I gave up smoking cigarettes, and it's the best decision that I've ever made in my life. So everybody has a template for their flower. You might have a piece of felt. I use Pelion, and it's a little bit stiff. It helps to keep your beading in place. You could either use a stapler and staple your pattern to your felt or your Pelion, and it'll help you to start. I'm going to use a black thread today to help you see it a little bit better. I buy all of my supplies from the museum over at Pikwakanagan. They have everything that you need, from beads to thread to scissors, hole punch, leather, hoops for dream catchers, etc. And today I'm going to use size 10 seed bead. So we're going to start, you're going to take your needle and you're going to double thread it, and then you're going to tie a knot in the end. And you're going to come up from the underside of your pattern along your middle circle of your flower. So it's gone through and we're in the front of it now. And I'm going to use yellow for the middle of my flower. And I'm just going to get my felt that I put my beads on to help me keep them in place and not lose any or make a mess on the floor. And if you do drop your beads on the floor, if you have your vacuum, you get some nylon, whether it's the socket pantyhose, and you put that on the end of your vacuum, and you can suck up your beads without losing them. So now that we're through our pattern and we're ready to stitch, we're going to pick up 4 beads. And I'm just using size 11 beads, and they're the gold eye. I really like the gold eye because it helps you see the hole a little bit easier. So once you have your 4 beads put on, you're going to lie it down on your pattern, and then you're going to put your needle in from the top right through to underneath. And then you're going to pull it so that all your beads line up. Now you're going to go up through the second bead from the bottom still, and then we're going to go through the last 2 beads we put on, and that's to help secure your beads into place. There's many different styles of beading, and 2, 3, and 4. There's the one needle like I'm doing today, but you could also use 2 needles. And if you would use 2 needles, you would have one that is always on the bottom and one that always works from the top. And the one that works from the top allows you to go back and forth over top of your beads to keep them secure and in place. So I'm just going to use the one needle method today to teach you how to bead your Métis flower. We're going to continue all with the one color. You can actually put different colors in there if you'd like. It's your own pattern. Also, when we bead, you might have seen some patterns and beading that have a color that doesn't match. And that's called, we call that the humanity bead. So It's just to show that we're not perfect and that we make mistakes, but it's okay. And we just carry on with what we're doing. So we picked up another 4, and we're going in through the top, down underneath, coming back up through the, so that you have 2. And if you get tangled on the back, just take your time and you'll be able to untangle your knot and continue with your beading. So when I started my journey in 2018 with crafting, I started with dream catchers, and I would make dream catchers 2 or 3 a day. At one point my whole living room window was just dream catchers, and my neighbors would ask me, "What's with all the things hanging in your window?" And I would explain that for me, my healing journey, it consists of crafting and learning more about my heritage and where I come from. And sometimes it's a hard journey. My mother was part of the 60s scoop, and she was taken at a young age along with her brothers and sisters, and they were scattered. Some were adopted, and some didn't. My mom ended up becoming a mother herself at a very young age, 16. 17 years old, she had 2 children. And it's been a journey of healing. So now that I'm coming to the end of my circle, I'm going to pick up my last 4 beads, and I'm going to adjust to see if I need all 4 or if I only need 2 or 3. And that's going to fit nicely with the 4. So before moving to the Pembroke area and learning more about my family over in Pikwakanagan, I was living in Northern Ontario, in Timmins, where I grew up and was raised. My mother would involve us in different teachings and ceremonies that were held up in the area by different elders, and I'm grateful to have learned that the different cultures of the Indigenous people. So now that I've done my circle, I'm through the bottom, and we're going to come up just right beside the middle, where we did our first row. Now I'm going to pick up on this row, I'm going to pick up 8 beads. And I'll show you a different stitch. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm taking my 8 beads, and I'm just going to line them up, just like I did with my first 4. So it's going to sit nicely right there. I'm going to go through the top, underneath, pull my beads. You're going to see that it's not lined up properly, but that's okay. You're just going to put it in place, pull your thread a little bit. Now you're going to come back to the beginning. I'm going to come up on the other side of my second bead.
Because now what I want to do is I want to tack it down in place, like I was using 2 needles, but I'm only using the 1. So you're going to see that your needle is going to come over top of your bead, and then you're just going to pull it down so that it secures in between the 2nd and the 3rd bead. And I'll do that for the rest of them. And you can use any colors you'd like inside. And you just line your beads back up if they move a little bit on you. And if your thread starts getting frayed a little bit, because I have rough fingers, so it gets caught on it a little bit. This is wax, and all you do is you just slide your thread through it, you bring your needle to the edge, and then you slide it back, and it helps to give your thread a little bit of a coating. So now that I've done those 8, I'm going to come up through the last one from the bottom so that we can start as we come out of our last bead. And then I'll pick up 8 more. You can continue to pick up 4 at a time. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we will, again, just do it over. It's very repetitive. It teaches you patience. It teaches you to be kind to yourself, because sometimes you're going to prick yourself with your needle. And if you prick yourself too many times, it just means you might need a break. You might need to go and have a drink, or just go and catch a fresh breath air, or a fresh breath air, or yeah, fresh air. And then you can always come back and try again. I know for me, my children find me, I'm at my calmest when I'm crafting and I'm able to express myself in a softer manner, because when you're beading or doing any kind of craft, you shouldn't have any bad anger, stress. Okay, so now that my fingers have messed up my thread for me, it's not allowing me to go through the pillion. And if I try to pull, I might make it. But I'm going to rethread, but I'm just going to go back through, and then I'm going to cut and burn off this. And then I'll take my lighter and just tack down the piece that I cut. Now usually with my threads, if they don't fray on me, I try and keep them for smaller projects. But when they fray like that, it doesn't help you to keep it. So I buy my threads in little spools. My mom recycled our water bottles to keep my threads nice and intact and in place. So I just take out the portion that I need. I put my cap back on. I cut it, I put it aside, and it's safe for the next time I need it. Because if you leave your thread loose, it turns into a big knot, and it's very difficult and stressful to try and untangle your thread. And it also saves on waste. So I'm going to thread my needle one more time, and I'm going to tie a knot at the bottom. And then we're going to continue. Come up through the last bead to start our next section. And that one, I think, will finish off our second row for the 8. For your 4, you'll probably have 2 more to finish off to the end. But beading is very intricate. It takes time. And it's very, very repetitive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So when I started, I was doing lots of dream catchers. Then I was able to attend some craft shows and some powwows, and then COVID hit, and I had all these dream catchers, and I didn't know what to do with them. So I decided that I was going to follow along with what the people in Pembroke were doing with rocks and putting rocks around for other people to find them. So I did that. I went down to the Pembroke Marina and the amphitheater, and I walked around that area, and I put up dream catchers, and I shared it also on Facebook to let people know that they were there to be taken and brought home. And I couldn't believe how many people were so grateful to have found one. And I had people messaging me, asking me if I was going to be putting out more dream catchers. And I thought maybe in a few months. I had a couple of people that I had the opportunity of beading them some keychains and some lanyards. So now that we're done our second row, we're going to come up from our bottom again, and we're going to take on our 4 beads, or you can do 8. 6, 7, and 8. Oh, that's one too many. 2, 4, 6, 8. It takes some time for beading. I have a lot of people ask, how much do you sell beading for? And it's a hard part of the journey for me, because I am a single mom, and I know how hard it is financially sometimes to purchase these beautiful things that are crafted by Indigenous people. And I always say, I know what work entails. I know that anything that you purchase is going to cost. But I take the kinder route, and I try to lower what people have to pay, because maybe that dream catcher or that poppy or a lanyard might make a difference in somebody's life and allow them to understand that life is not always hard on us. If we just allow the kindness in and allow people in our circles that we might not give them the chance, it opens up a lot of doors. And I know walking with Family and Child Services and the Métis and in the Pembroke area, it has given me the opportunity to learn more about who I am and where I come from, and heal from my traumas and the things that I've gone through in life. So I'm grateful for all the opportunities that have come across my path since I've moved here, and the people that have accepted me is wonderful. So I'm just going to tack down my last 8 on this side, and then we'll finish off our circle. And once you're done beading all of your petals, you still have room on your pattern if you'd like to do little stems or petals. There's no right or wrong way of making your pattern. There is a template to give you that guide, but it's all what your heart wants to create. And once you're done beading, the template that's underneath, you're not going to see the paper because it's going to be hidden by all of your beads. Now I'm short 2 beads off of my circle, so I'm just going to pick up the 2 beads and line them up and then just put them into place. And then come up through your last bead. And we can secure that into place. So now up through the middle again. And here, if you'd like to change colors at any point, you can do that. You don't have to stay to the one color. So I'm going to put a little bit of green in our center here. And these are size 10, better make sure I'm saying it, 10 seed beads. And I also buy these from the museum over at Pikwakanagan. 3, 6, 7, 8. You can always call. They do have curbside pickup, or you can email them. I'm not quite sure what the email address is. I know calling is very easy. It's the Algonquin Way, I think, is the museum's name. So now I'm just going to, I switched my color, and I'm going to use a green in the center of it. And I have 2 beads too many, so we'll just take those off. And if you wanted to, once you're done your flower, you're going to put a leather backing on it, or a faux vinyl. I'm not sure what was sent in your package for you. So now I'm just going to go along and tack the beads into place. So this is just the 1 needle stitch, but I'm beading like I have 2. So I went through my beads with the needle, and then I'm going back around and securing them all into place. You can see it's lifted here a little bit. It's got a little bit of a lift there. And then we'll just try and flatten it down. And once we tack it down, it will stay in place. So like I said, it's a continuous, repetitive pattern that you're going to do. Up from the bottom, up into the top, put your beads on, lay them flat, line them up, and you're ready to go for your second round. So I'll finish off the green, and then I'll continue on to do a petal, and I'll do it in a with a bright colored bead. Oh, I only need 2, so we'll take those 2 off, put them back in. Okay, so now we're done our middle. We're going to stay with our same needle. If you have to switch your thread over, that's okay. Now we're going to come up on the line of the petal, right at the base of the circle, the center piece. And I'll just put my beads away before I make a mess. I didn't bring my vacuum, so. I always keep my beads in a container that locks. Some of the beads that when I buy them, they come in little Ziploc bags, and sometimes the bags get damaged. Excuse me. So I'm going to pick up the 4 to start your petal. Bring it down, and then we're going to come back up halfway and come back through your last 2 beads. And then we'll take 4 more. And you always use your fingers to help guide your beads too, to try and keep them in place and where you want them to sit before you're tacking them down or securing them. And then you just pull them a little bit and they become tightly together. 3 and 4. Some people, when they're beading, they don't use the double thread. They don't tie a knot at the end of their thread like we did. They have one end that is free, and then the other end is knotted, and that's when they use the 2 needle method. It allows you to go through your bead a couple of more times. The other gets 4 more beads, 3 and 4. If your fingers start getting sore, just because you're not used to the movements and the repetitiveness of it, you can do an exercise where you can just tap your fingers to your palm and go back. And then take a break, and then you can start beading again. It'll help strengthen those muscles, as well as allow you to build some stamina, I guess you would say, some go to help you to be able to finish your pattern. So I'm getting 4 more beads, and then it's only going to take a couple more after these ones to finish off this petal, and then we'll bead the inside. And you can stay with the same color you have, or you can add a second color inside. I will add a color in the middle to give it like a little bit of a stem in the middle of the flower. 3 and 4. And then you'll just continue doing that for the rest of your pattern. And like Ange said, if you need to go back to see where you messed up or where you've forgotten, you'll have the video right there, and you'll be able to refer to where you need to be. Now I'm going to pick up 8 beads, and I'm going to just bead a little bit faster. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And once you're done beading all of your flower, you're going to cut around the edge of it, and then you'll be able to put your backing on. And if you're going to use it as a pin, you can put a pin on it. If you're going to use it as a hair, attach it to an elastic, you'll be able to do that. And then you'll be able to show off your Métis flower. Or you can leave it just the way it is, and you can add a piece of leather. It could become a bookmark. You could add anything you want to it. I always count out my beads to myself, just because I like it to be the same. I found in the past, if I would do a different beading pattern, that it would, in my own eyes, it would make it look like it's different. So and you don't want to thread your needle with too long of a thread, because then you could get it tangled, and the fraying, if that happens, it's frustrating. So I think I have enough thread on my needle to do a few more beads, and then I'll have to switch and put a new piece on. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So don't forget that you're just going to continue your pattern from coming up from the bottom up into the top, getting your beads, and then you'll be done your little flower. I want to thank you for sitting with me today in my circle and learning to bead a flower, and I'm grateful for Ange and Family and Child Services for inviting me to be part of their circle to share my teachings and some of my knowledge. I wish you a beautiful day with your family and your friends, and Chimigwich.
Hi everyone. So we're going to show you guys a Bannock video that was made by Kim Isabel, who is the Community Wellness Coordinator at Métis Nation of Ontario. So she gracefully did the video for us. She did one in French and one in English. So we'll play the English one first, and then we'll play the French one. So, allô tout le monde. Nous allons vous montrer une vidéo de une de nos partenaires, Kim Isabel, qui a fait du Bannock. Il va y avoir une vidéo en anglais puis en français. So on va montrer celle en anglais, puis après celle en français. Elle travaille à Métis Nation Ontario. Merci.
Hi everybody, today I'm going to make some bannock. I'm going to teach you my recipe. So in order to make bannock you need 2 1/4 cups of flour, a tablespoon of sugar, half a tablespoon of salt, a tablespoon of baking powder, and you need 1 cup of water. So you mix all the ingredients until you get a dough. And so the dough is like, so it's like bread, like kind of doughy. And then once you have this, for myself, there's 3 methods I use to cook my bannock. So I can take the dough and I roll it on a stick and I can cook it over the fire. So that's one way to do it. You can take your dough and bake it. So you would bake it for about 25 minutes in the oven, and this is what your bannock will look like. Oops, sorry, there we go. Or you can fry your bannock as well. So I prefer to make a ball and then I put a hole in the middle and I give it a donut shape because I find the oil will penetrate the inside and the outside, and it will fry evenly, but that's just my preference. Now, bannock, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Some people just make a ball and they throw it in the oil, and that's okay. I add sugar, and if you don't want to add sugar, that's fine. But you can also make like a dessert bannock, so if you want to add more sugar for sweeter taste or cinnamon, that is also an option. And then once you have your beautiful bannock, you can eat it as is, or you can use honey and jam. So it's really up to you. So thank you for watching. I wish everybody a happy Indigenous Day. Bye. Bonjour la gang, aujourd'hui je vais faire du bannock, donc je vais vous partager ma recette. Pour faire la pâte, tu as besoin de 2 tasses et 1/4 de farine. Tu as besoin 1 cuillère à thé de sucre, 1 demi-cuillère à thé de sel, 1 cuillère à thé de poudre à pâte, puis tu as besoin d'1 tasse d'eau. Fait que là, tu mélanges tout ça ensemble pour faire une pâte. Ta pâte, elle va ressembler à ça. Ça ressemble un peu à comme de la pâte à pain dans le sens. Puis là, tu peux prendre... Moi, j'ai 3 façons pour la faire cuire. Fait que je prends ma pâte, je l'enroule sur un bâton et puis je peux la faire cuire sur le feu. Ou tu peux aussi utiliser ton four à 350 degrés pour 25 minutes. Tu prends ta pâte, boum! Tu le mets au four pour 25 minutes. Ou tu peux aussi faire frire ton bannock. Donc, comme tu vois, moi j'aime ça faire un peu comme des beignes parce que je trouve que ça cuit un peu plus également. Mais tu peux quand même faire des boules. C'est comme vous voulez, il n'y a pas de bonne et de mauvaise façon de le faire. C'est 1 minute chaque côté dans l'huile et puis ton bannock est prêt. Personnellement, j'utilise du sucre, un petit peu de sucre, mais c'est pas obligatoire. Mais si tu veux faire un bannock qui est un petit peu plus sucré comme un dessert, tu peux mettre un peu plus de sucre, tu peux mettre de la cannelle, tu peux faire ce que tu veux. Une fois que c'est cuit, tu peux le manger seul comme ça, ou tu peux mettre du miel, tu peux mettre de la confiture, n'importe quoi. C'est délicieux, puis ça se mange avec n'importe quoi. Donc, je vous remercie et puis je vous souhaite une très belle journée.
Hi everybody, welcome back. So we're on to the fire keeper. So I would like to introduce Lori Fotban. So I'm very honored to be here today with Lori. So we do have a small sacred fire outside. Of course, we don't film that because it is sacred, but we have opened up the sacred fire for a couple teachings today, which is great to be able to do that, especially with COVID times. But I'll move it over to Lori, and thanks so much for your support. Miigwech.
Thanks, Angie. So I think Angie just said everything that I wanted to say, but anyway, actually, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm grateful to be here. It was such an honor to be asked to keep the fire here today, and I received firekeeper teachings from many elders and lodge keepers, sweat lodge keepers, fire keepers, and the first elder that provided me with teachings about the fire was Dominic Rankin, an Algonquin from northern Quebec, and he taught me about reverence and keeping the fire sacred, and that it was to be gentle with it at the same time, that we're asking the sacred fire to do quite a bit of work for us, especially in this time of orange t-shirts and the tragedy of the 215. So we smudged and prepped the area, and we laid tobacco in all four directions, and then for creation, this great mystery for Creator, as well as ourselves and Mother Earth, for those 7 directions. And we lit a small fire in honor of the work that's being done today and to support the healing of the community. Sacred fires are used in ceremony, and they usually burn for the length of the ceremony, and they're not left unattended. So I've asked Chantel to take care of the fire while I'm here sharing those teachings with you, just so we don't leave the fire unattended. And it's here today to help us with our prayers, help us with healing, and we invite people to come. We have medicines, tobacco and cedar, to be offered and put into the fire for your prayers. So we invite people to come, respect social distances, and put those prayers in the fire, and say what's needed for yourself and others. And the more people we have offer prayers to the fire, the healthier we'll become. So we've got lots of work to do yet, but it's an honor and to be here. And so it's like with the fire, I'm grateful for the water I drink, the wind that brings the air that I breathe, and all the abundance of Mother Earth that allows me to live. I'm humbled with the knowledge that I live because everything else lives. So, Miigwech for the honor today of being firekeeper, and come and join us and offer some prayers. So, Miigwech, and if I've forgotten anything or left anything out, please leave room in your heart for that. So, Miigwech, thank you.
Hi everyone, we're going to move ahead. We're kind of ahead on schedule a little bit, but better than being behind. So I just want to introduce you. This is Melissa Lebrec. She is one of our youth ambassadors who's very, very vocal and who has shared her passion of art with us. A lot of the art that we have around the lodge, on the walls and in the hallways was done by Melissa. If we could move you around, we would. But she was able to draw these very nice, the 7 teachings with their animals. So today she's going to share how to draw a medicine wheel so that everybody can follow along. So you just need your little canvas that you guys got in your packages, the 4 paints, and if you do, I'm pretty sure we put a paintbrush in there, but I can't remember if we did. And then just your little easel that came with it. And then you're just gonna follow along. So she's gonna show you and kind of explain the significance of the medicine wheel. Melissa only speaks English, so we will try to introduce as much as we can in French as well, and then we'll go from there. So, ici, on a Melissa qui va nous faire la peinture aujourd'hui. Ça va juste être à suivre comme qu'elle a fait. Vous avez besoin de vos 4 pots de peinture avec votre petite canvas qui est venu dans votre kit, ou même un morceau de papier si tu ne veux pas l'utiliser pour que ça soit plus gros. Elle va démontrer comment le faire. So, vraiment, vous faites un cercle, puis après ça, elle va couper les 4 carrés, puis elle va mettre chaque couleur pour les directions. Elle ne parle pas le français, so elle va tout expliquer en anglais, mais si elle va être capable de vous le démontrer, so c'est pas comme elle va être capable de partager avec vous. Alors, voici Melissa, and thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Melissa, and we're going to paint a medicine wheel. So first, what you want to do is you want to get your canvas, and we are going to want to draw a circle. So you may not be able to see, but this is what I have drawn here. So this is the medicine wheel. This is the circle here. So you're going to want to take really anything that is circular. You could take a cup or anything, and you just put it down, and and then you trace around the cup, and that's how you can get a perfect circle. So then I also have lines going down and across the circle. This is optional if you want to draw this first. If you don't want to draw it first, you can just pick up your paint and you can start to try to do it with paint. So that is what you're going to want to start with, is this circle. Now you don't really want to mind this. This is just extra. I didn't realize that the canvases you have are so small, so you may not be able to fit what this bottom part is going to be. So once we have a circle and that you have divided it down the center and across the center, then you're going to want to pick up a small brush, if you have one, and you're going to want to dip it into your black paint. And make sure that when you dip it in, that you rub any excess off the side like that. And now what you're going to want to go and do is you're going to want to trace over the line that you just drew with black paint. And if you haven't drawn it yet, you can just go ahead and draw it with paint in a circle. Okay, and now this is what we have so far. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trace over the inside lines as well. Okay, and then it should look something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and trace this bottom part. So what this bottom part is, you're going to continue lines from just around here and go straight down to about here, and then from the centered line down a bit, and from around here down a bit. So you're just making small little lines, and you're going to see what it turns into. Now, if you don't have room for this, you can just ignore this next part. But if you do have room, then you can go ahead and make small little lines. And the lines are going to be like this. So now what these things are here, these are going to be feathers. So to draw feathers, you're going to want to draw like little rectangles, but they're pointy on each end. So I'm going to go ahead and trace over one. So how you start this is you're going to want to do an upside down V, and then you're going to want to continue both sides a bit like this. And then you're going to want to do a right side up V, the letter V. And that's how you're going to do a feather. So I'm going to continue that. So now that this is relatively finished, this part is, then you're going to want to put your brush in the cup of water that you should have. If you don't have a cup of water, you might want to go get one. Put those down a bit. Now, one step that I just forgot is the inside of the feather. So if you look up closely to a feather, you'll see that it has the inside part to it. Now the inside part, you're just going to want to continue the line down like that. So then it looks like there's an inside part to the feather. Now after you put your first brush in the water, you're going to want to go ahead and grab another one. So the next brush that you can grab, if you have it, is a bigger brush like this. Now the reason for this is because there's a larger area to cover, but you can use a smaller brush if you want. Now, you guys might want to use a smaller brush because of your canvases being so small. But then again, it's always preference. So if you want to have a small brush or if you want to have a big brush, it's really up to you. So we are going to do the colors of this wheel like this. So this is 4 Directions button. And you can see that in the inside there's a feather. So it goes like this, and you would have it pinned somewhere on your shirt. So now this one, I think it actually holds more like this, but because ours is up and down, we're going to do it like this. So, so now if we look at this, we're going to see that the first color is black. Sorry, right here, black. Now, that is going to do, it's going to be right here. So this one this one will be black, and then this one over here will stay white. So you can use white paint, or you can just not do anything there and it'll stay white. And then there will be yellow and red. So we're going to start with black. Again, actually, I think we should probably start with the lightest color. So we're going to start with white. So white is going to be right here. So you don't have to use white paint because the canvas should already be white. But if you want to, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to dip your brush into some white paint. And you're going to go ahead and paint this top triangle here. All right. Now that you have the first one colored, which is this one here, right here. So that's white. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to wipe your brush, or if you have the option for another clean brush, then you can use that as well. But to wipe the brush, you're going to dip it in your water, and then you're going to get off the excess water by putting it along the side. And then you're just going to wipe it with your cloth or a paper towel if you have one. And if it doesn't get it all off the first time, just dip your brush again a couple times and just do it again. And there you go, then it is relatively clean. So now for the next color, we're going to do yellow. So yellow is going to be underneath the white that we just did. So right here, that's going to be yellow. So you're going to want to go into your yellow paint, take off the excess paint, and then go in and start painting. Now, painting can be used to relax someone. If they're having a bad day, they can paint about what was making them have a bad day. I find painting very therapeutic. Okay, now. So it might take me longer to paint an area because my canvas is so big. Okay, and once you get this done, then you're going to dip your brush again into the water, or if you have the option to get another clean one, you can get another clean one. And you're going to want to wipe your brush again. So the reason that we do lighter colors first, instead of just hopping right into the black, is because your water will become dark as well. And I don't know, you can sort of see that. So the color of this water is a greenish yellow. So when you go and you dip your brush, you're going to notice that the more you paint and you dip your brush and you wash off the water, there's still going to be paint on your brush or in the water. And this is why you don't use black paint right from the beginning, because your water's going to be black. And every time that you try to clean your brush is just going to pick up more black paint water. And it's going to make your picture look all muddy and not as clean as you might like. So that's why we use the lighter colors, or try to use the lighter colors first. So now we're going to go to red. So red is going to be right beside yellow down here. So what you're going to want to do is take your brush, dip it in the red, take any excess paint off, and start painting. All right, so once you have that, then you're going to want to put your brush back in the water and dip it again. Or if you have another clean brush, you can get another clean brush, or if you had a brush used for black paint, then you can get that one back. So now what you're going to see is that there is some red coming off of the tissue here. So that is because that the paint water is also reddish. So sometimes it's good to change your water after using darker colors. So when the water gets to be not see-through anymore, then you might want to change it. So now that our brush is clean again, we are going to go back into, we're going to go back into the black paint. And take off any excess paint. And then we're going to want to go ahead and paint the last remaining triangle, which would be right on this side. So right above the red, you're going to paint that triangle black. Okay, and once you have finished with the black, then if you had room for the feathers, you're just going to want to paint the very tip of the feathers black. So just this little part in here. And then you can take your brush and put it in your water. And this should be the finished painting of the 4 directions with 3 feathers.
So welcome back, everybody, and thanks for continuing to join us. We're dwindling down to our end of the day celebrations. So I'd just like to introduce you today to 2 of our young ladies. So young ladies that have been walking their path for quite a few years and have been part of the Walking My Path youth group here at FCS. So we're quite proud of them, and they're bringing the teaching of the tobacco tie today. So in front of me is Callie Deshane, so my daughter obviously, but very proud of her for her walk, and they'll explain why they have a red handprint on their face. And beside her is Victoria Bergeron, so another lovely lady that I'm very proud of, and thank you, ladies, and I'll let you take over.
Hello. Hello. I am Callie Deshane. My spirit name is White Ermine Moon, or you could also call me Moonbeam. I am Mi'kmaq and Algonquin, and we are going to teach you about the medicine teachings. But before we teach you about that, I would like to state why we have the red handprint on our faces. So the reason for that is in significance to the missing and murdered Indigenous women across Canada. We just really want to, raise awareness and just to express our condolences for those families and those missing or murdered people. Thank you.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Victoria Bergeron. J'ai 15 ans. Je viens de la nation Saulteaux et Huron. Puis je continue cette discovery of inner self, I guess, depuis l'âge de 3 ans. Je suis aussi un danseur avec Callie. Hi, my name is Victoria Bergeron. My spirit name is Sly Fox Jumping, or Spirit Fox, Little Fox, whatever works. I am 15 years old, and I am also a shawl dancer since the age of 3.
I am a shawl dancer, a fancy shawl dancer since the age of 4, and I am 16 years old. So with the teaching, so first, when we're talking about materials, everything is natural, and we like to think of it as an offering to our elders, asking for if you need something to ask your elders for that, or if you want to give thanks. There's many different things that you can do with medicine bags. So first, the first material that you will need is cotton. You could get a sheet like this. They're really cheap. You can get them from any store, pretty much any local store. So what we do with that is we cut a little square. So it's about this big. And you will need some hide string, I guess you can call it. So what we do is...
Yes. Alors, pour commencer, vous allez besoin du coton, comme juste du coton normal. Puis on peut avoir ça de n'importe quel magasin, au moins pratiquement. Puis ça coûte pas beaucoup d'argent. Puis, ouais, tous les matériels qu'on va utiliser doivent être naturels. Oui, puis c'est tout. Go ahead.
So what we start off with, so from our heart hand, we will take the tobacco, which is a very common medicine. So we take tobacco and we put it in our heart hand. And then we say a prayer of what we need from the Creator, or to give thanks, ask for guidance down our red road. Just anything that's bothering you, been on your mind, or just if you need to ask about something. So what we do is we would take that medicine and we'd put it right in the middle of the medicine bag.
Alors, après avoir ton coton, tu vas besoin de le couper en soit un rectangle, ça fonctionne assez très bien, ou quand même un carré fonctionnerait aussi. Puis tu vas prendre le tabac avec ta main gauche, celle qui est la plus proche à ton cœur. On fait ça en raison du fait que tout ce qu'on fait doit être du cœur. Toutes nos intentions doivent être du cœur. Alors, on va placer le tabac qu'on avait pris avec notre main gauche, puis on va le mettre au centre de notre coupure de coton.
So from there, so how we fold it is, so it'd be flat like this. And what we want to do is we kind of want to fold it in a triangle first. So flip one side to the other side, which is kind of like this, in a triangle. Now what we want to do is we want to kind of squeeze these sides upwards, so it kind of goes like this. And then just kind of wrap it a little bit to make sure that all the medicines are still inside.
D'accord. Et après avoir mis le tabac que tu avais pris avec ta main gauche sur le morceau de coton plat au centre, tu vas le plier pour que ça devienne un triangle. Puis le but de ceci est pouvoir, quand tu es terminé, comme le lever, puis que ça soit quand même assez pointé au ciel.
Now from there, you would need a little bit of your hide string. It doesn't have to be hide. Traditionally, it would be hide or that type of material. So what we do now is we just kind of wrap it around the medicine bag. You can wrap it any way you want, and then you can tie it.
Alors, prochainement, vous allez besoin un morceau de... excuse. Juste comme du ruban. Puis, on va, sur site, on va le prendre, puis on va l'attacher. Pour que ça soit complètement fermé, et on a comme un genre de petit sac dans le milieu. Puis, oui.
Yeah. So now that we finished our medicine bag with our intentions in it, we would gift that to our community elder, grandmother, just somebody that's really close to you and that has those teachings, and you would offer them this and ask them what you need, or just to give thanks. You could also put this in a sacred fire, which is also another traditional teaching. Yeah, so that's.
Alors, le but de ceci est pouvoir demander de l'information, que ce soit spirituelle ou n'importe quoi, à un aîné dans la communauté. Oui, c'était utilisé traditionnellement pour des centaines et centaines d'années. Oui, on peut aussi le mettre dans un feu sacré. C'est un genre de prière et demande plutôt par rapport à toi ou comme spirituellement.
Yeah. So that's the teaching, and thank you for watching and listening.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just here to say a closing prayer for our Indigenous Day today. It was a beautiful day and a lot of sharing happened. And I would like to say thank you to Angie and her group, and Nick, and all other ones that are present, all the presenters. I hope you enjoyed your workshops and were able to accomplish something. And with that, I'd like to say thank you, Creator, for giving us a beautiful day. We didn't get the rain that we're supposed to, but it's coming. And I just want to take this time to wish everyone healing and walk your journey as best as you can. Take care of each other and take care of the environment, take care of Mother Earth and the waters. Miigwech.
Rich.